The podcast has begun.
Begun. The podcast has.
Is there? There's no other way to see it as factually incorrect because of how many places you can watch the podcast, right? I feel like that's.
What do you mean by that?
You can watch it on the YouTube. You can watch it on
Twitch.
The Twitch. You can watch it on.
You can listen to it on. I think Lawrence has it on 4 different services. Maybe
It's more than that. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Just search. Should be on Spotify. That's really the only one that super matters. Apple Podcasts, I guess.
What's the most obscure one?
Ooh, oh boy. Oh no. I mean, you basically, yeah, it's the one that some guy invented in his basement in Minnesota, and he's like trying to convince his friends to get on it. But
is it on the list that is like published towards?
Not yet, but that's
I just
their
want to
loss.
know. I just want to know like what is the smallest demographic that we are currently streaming to, and I would like to say hi to them.
I mean, that's really nice of you, but what is it? SoundCloud? Are we on SoundCloud?
SoundCloud's not small.
I mean,
right?
it's not small, but I would assume not many people listen to this on SoundCloud, right?
Actually, I think
true.
the answer to that might be no. I think we're not on SoundCloud at all.
Oh, never mind.
Man, one of the most like no offense to SoundCloud, they've done wonders for music and podcast distribution and dudes talking about Star Wars and stuff, but I remember I like had to step away from a meal with like close friends and go into a parking lot to take a business call about SoundCloud Premium or something, where they were, I guess, trying to. This was when I was producing, Dude Soup. And they were, I guess, trying to convince us to make like a special show for their subscription service. And I don't know. I felt empty after that. I was like, why did I spend 45 minutes of my personal life hearing about this thing that's just probably doesn't exist anymore?
you poor. Hey, you know what, Lawrence? You and I had spent hours and hours of conference calls about Facebook. I've done a lot of that. I don't know if Criken's done that, but
I've done a bit. I think by the time they were actively looking to poach people, I was already kind of deep enough in bed with Twitch that they thought I was a lost cause. So I was avoided most of that.
Well, that was Facebook gaming, right? The streaming stuff.
You mean
their video
what's the other
push
platform they're pushing?
Well, they did like a video push in the mid to early 2010s, and nearly everyone the question was, do we keep pursuing YouTube or do we just go whole ham on Facebook? And to a point, every business bro and money asshole was like, Facebook's where it's at. Once they get these watch pages or whatever off the ground, oh baby, it's going to be a money explosion. And Facebook does this thing where they invent a new service, and since they control the numbers, they lie about the numbers. And all the numbers they say are really good because they're lying about them. And then it comes out later that they were lying about them, and Facebook says, whoopsie, and then they launch a new service, and then they lie about the numbers again. So this happened with Facebook gaming, this happened with Facebook video, it happened with nearly every initiative Facebook has ever done. And yet, every year, some salesperson who worked at whatever company we were working for couldn't wait to talk about how much money we were about to get on Facebook because of all these numbers they were looking at. It was absurd.
It was the same with Twitter. We used to post videos on Twitter, and they're like, "You're gonna make so much money on Twitter ads." And then we did it for like 6 months or something. And I was like, "Well, how much money do we make in a month?" And they're like, "Oh, in 30 days we made $18." I was like, "Jeez, holy shit!"
It's a catch-22 to some
Did that on
degree. And I
purpose,
get
chat.
it. Like
On
you have to
purpose.
lie to somebody to get people doing it to start. Like you need content and views to sell ads, and then you need ads to give the money to the people that make the content and the views. So somebody's got to kickstart the engine. It's just you don't want to be the person who gets left holding the bag.
Thank you, bacon. Yep, exactly.
Well, anyway, I'm really disassociated right now. I'm just gonna throw that one on the table, let it land like a wet fish.
Okay.
I woke up in a weird frame of mind. I've had a strange morning, and then like certain beats have nearly convinced me that I've warped into the past, but I can't tell exactly to what date. And
You've time traveled
a little bit, but only mentally. And it's almost like I can kind of remember a dream that I had a year and a half ago, and that dream happened just before the day that's very similar to the one I'm having right now. So there's all kinds of neurons just firing in my brain like crazy right now. I think if I think really hard enough, I might be able to dodge a bullet.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think you've ascended to neodom?
I think I'm close. I really do.
I mean, either that or you might have a brain hemorrhage.
Or
Oh, jeez.
Who's to say which one is which? Yeah, I'm kind of waiting on the I'm waiting on the eye halos to close in. That's when I know that I'm getting a migraine, which was maybe what this is. We'll find out. This is going to be a fun podcast.
You suffer from migraines too. Migraines. I've never had a migraine before. I have no idea what it's like, but it just sounds like the worst possible thing in the world.
I have them too.
I don't know. Don't waste too much pity on me.
I mean, no. It sounds terrible. It sounds like a horrible thing that people have to go through.
Yeah, it's just a transcendent headache, though. Like, I mean, you can probably imagine it to some degree. It's just like, instead of just being, at one point in your head, like, oh, that's kind of annoying, it like consumes your entire consciousness, sort of thing.
Ugh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So wait, Criken, you get them too?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Not as often. My father gets them often, but maybe in my age, I will age up into it, and then I will cease becoming a functioning member of society. I look forward to that day.
Hey, if you function enough, you can just cruise.
Right.
You're right about
that's
that.
the goal right now. I'm overworking myself now so that I can get to my cruise years, and I just like lie in bed with migraines and love life. This is very dark. I also woke up in a weird mood. I also had a really weird morning, so I think we're the mental kind of energy of this podcast is very lopsided right now. So, hey, Bruce, if you want to take the reins of positivity and I mean, you're currently playing a really dark.
I am playing the darkest game that you could possibly play, Demon's Souls. But that said, though, I'm having a lot of fun, and I didn't think I'd have fun playing. I actually thought that this would be like torture because I'm doing a 24-hour stream, and I was like, I've always wanted to play Dark Souls, Demon's Souls, whatever, any From Software game, because they've just not really been my bag. And I was like, I'll give it a shot and see. And a 24-hour stream is the best way to do it because it'll force me to play.
Right.
And because otherwise I would play it for 3 hours and be like, never again. And so I've been trying to figure out what attracts people to these games. And I think Lawrence and I have had a lot of talks about this, where when you're playing like a single player video game and you're playing against the computer, it feels good to beat the computer, but it's made to be beaten.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me has always been an interesting challenge because it's made to be beaten, but it still feels good to beat it. And that's the reason I've always played multiplayer games, is because multiplayer games, they're not made to be beaten. You're playing against other people, and you may lose all the time. So I've just been trying to get my mind into the mindset of playing a From Software game.
Yeah, it's like varying levels of resistance, right? Before it's considered a satisfying, accomplishment.
Right.
And that's kind of what FromSoft's like made their brand around, is a higher than average level of resistance before you're able to make an achievement that has very little like random elements to it. I think that's the other thing that they do. You've got like a lot of the games that have difficulty rely on some RNG for that difficulty. Like, bad luck, I had this happen. But with FromSoft, it's like very cause and effects, every single part of it. So, some people really dig that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really trying because I know millions and millions of people love these video games. So I've just been giving it a shot, and I don't know what advice do you have for me playing this sort of game?
I think it depends on the sort of gamer you are. I think as you described, you're a conqueror, right? Like you want to feel like you achieved a challenge and you're you outwitted your opponent, be it a person or if the game. So I think exploring every nook and cranny and finding every angle to take advantage of is a good way to play it. Other people are like more into story and kind of world building, and these games also have stuff for them because it's very like all the world, the storytelling is like very kind of built into the world and diegetic, I guess. So yeah, I think that's another fun thing that I really enjoyed when I played through it.
Yeah, that's it's not like a Bannerlord, where Bannerlord feels like I'm commanding thousands and taking over a whole video game world. Mm-hmm. Whereas this just feels like it's like the super soldier against a bunch of different enemies, but I'm not a super soldier.
Yeah, exactly. You're just some dude with a sword that
I'm just
trying really hard.
Taking off their clothes, and now I'm out here trying to kill things.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of Bannerlord, I wanted to shout. It was brought to my attention literally yesterday that there's a really cool mod in development that you might be interested in.
There is.
Bruce.
I know exactly what it is. The MMO mod.
Yeah, they're sorry about my voice. There's a mod team that's been building a cooperative MMO basically version of the game, or kind of additive to the game, where you can have multiple characters on the campaign map at once in real time, going about and doing their own like personal adventures. It looks fantastic. I don't know. I'm starting to follow development now, so I don't know how far ahead they are, but when that is ready, I think it's going to be some really good content.
Yeah, we got to get Lawrence on the Bannerlord train. I'm not sure if that's a Lawrence game or not.
I think he'd like it.
I played it a bit. It is. I got to be honest. I guess I don't actually play games for content now that I realize it.
Yeah.
What is present in a FromSoft game that to me isn't as present in something like Bannerlord is communication of not necessarily intent, but just the curation of an experience, I guess. And I think through that you hear a lot of communication from the developers. So to play through something like Demon Souls, which is wildly creative, both in its gameplay design and also its world, its music, its characters, all that stuff.
Right.
It is fascinating to me to walk through that and really imagine that humans made every last part of that and put it all together.
You're totally right. It's completely curated. You're exactly right.
And what's really, from the gameplay perspective, I totally get the concept of like multiplayer games. Yeah, no human is going into a match, unless it's pro wrestling. No human's going in trying to put up like a pleasing level of fight and then eventually let you win. There are some games, I guess, that might be like that, multiplayer ways, but the single player aspect of that is really fascinating because teaching somebody how to play a game or creating obstacles for them to overcome still centers entirely around communication. You have to communicate to the player what their tool set is. You have to give them hints about how to use it, and then give them something that cues them in the right way to use them in certain ways. And in between there has to be an allowance for skill, and also maybe an allowance for randomness. Like Criken said, there's all kinds of little ingredients that go into that stew. But what I find incredible about From Software games in particular is it's almost just like a rhythm of communication with boss fights. They will throw patterns at you, and those patterns are excessively timing-based, cued by video and audio things. What's fun is when they start to fuck with you, and that's when I see a lot of playful energy in those games, is it can be Simon all day, which is I hold my sword up, you dodge through the sword, and then you get 2 hits, and then you dodge back. And if it's just that pattern over and over, that's kind of boring. So you start to mix it up, but then you do things where I hold my sword up, but it's a different kind of holding it up, and instead that means I'm going to attack low. And now you have a punch-out sort of dynamic where you just have to... It's pattern response. But what I find incredible is when they'll teach you a pattern over some enemies or a boss, and then intentionally invert that or subvert that in some way in a different encounter. And in that way, you do the storytelling through actual gameplay mechanics. Bannerlord is cool because it's kind of like... I view it as kind of like it's a set. It's like a tool set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can make what you want with that. But I don't get a whole lot of communication from the creators because the creators made the tools for me to make the story instead of the creators making the story for me to experience.
So would it be fair to say that you prefer a presented, curated story with a script than the emergent narrative that is more kind of unpredictable and built by your own journey?
It's tough because just for the sake of explicitness, because usually when people talk about scripted things, they mean cutscenes. And I don't think that's necessarily what we're talking about. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but when you say a scripted experience, you mean a boss fight, something that has a preset number of moves that you just have to learn and overcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think I do actually, because to me at least, it's kind of like the difference between watching a film. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this. There may not be one, but
I can Lawrence, I think I have one.
Yeah.
to me, this sounds like an iPhone and an Android thing, where iPhone is a completely curated experience. Like, you know that when you get it on iPhone, you're going to get a specific way of looking at things and doing things. And Apple has always been that way with all of their products, actually, with their laptops and computers and everything. Mac OS has always been very, very curated, and that's the way they've always talked about it. And Android's kind of the opposite. You can do whatever you want with Android. If you wanted to, if you want all of your app icons to be tiny little slivers, you can do that. Or if you want them really, really huge, you can do that. Every single setting is adjustable. And I am more of the Android person. I like kind of fooling with things and getting a specific custom way of doing things for me. Whereas Apple is very much, just we want it to be this one way and that's it. And that's okay. That's all right.
So that's pretty good. Let me build on that analogy just a teensy bit.
Yeah.
So in that analogy, I think, like Android would be I make it my way. That's the toolset approach. Apple would be one person's or one company's, one team's version of that experience. So if iOS is Dark Souls, then, and I'm staring at the trailer right now, then another mobile OS that I can't even Cyanide or whatever, is that still around? Cyanogen.
Oh wow!
There we go.
I have no idea.
That's an old one.
Cyanogen, yeah.
Yeah, that's Doom Eternal or whatever. So if my interest is purely in how humans interface with cell phones, then my interest is in seeing as many different kinds of UIs as possible, as opposed to getting the one that I can configure to be what I want. Because I think in that process, you get creations of animation, of art, of sound, and especially of interface, man. Different mobile OSs are pretty cool to mess with, to just see how different people solve the same problem.
Yeah.
So that's and since I'm staring right at it too, I guess for me it would be like the difference between playing the Doom Eternal DLC, which I'm really, really jazzed about, versus like another round of Warzone. Warzone dumps everyone into an arena and narratives happen there. But Doom Eternal has soundtrack cued to specific beats. It has art for specific things. It has characters that they've built. And it has gameplay elements that I think live perfectly alongside all those things and even enhance them. So for me, playing that DLC, it is more curated and it tells a specific thing. And it's only good at doing that. It can't really make any other kinds of narratives. But seeing that vision to me is really fascinating, as opposed to something like Warzone that's kind of an infinite narrative generator. So yeah, that's kind of where it sits for me, I guess. And I think because of that, it makes me more of a spectator than a creator. Yeah.
And well, that's what's weird. I guess that's kind of why I gravitate more towards, like, actually when you talk about Doom and Warzone, I talk about like Battlefield. Where Battlefield, all the trailers were always like, you get in and basically like all the things that are going to happen in Battlefield feel like movie moments, but you created them. And they totally do, because they feel random. Whereas when you're playing like a From Software game or a Doom, they're not random. Somebody intended you to experience those, and so then you marvel at the creator. Whereas in Battlefield, I marvel at the randomness. I'm like, and truthfully, it's not random. Video game, like, those video game devs meant for cool things to happen in Battlefield, but the way they happen, they probably have never seen before.
Right. So. It's like the combination of sequence of events that, this tank does a flip off a jump and lands on a plane, and it blew up in front of you. You're like, I'm the first person in the world to see this. And like, maybe that happens every 20 games or something like that. But, the way the system is built, you definitely feel like your own story is evolving because of your actions. You have more ownership or kind of control over the situation.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and there's merit to all of it. Like it's not just I don't necessarily, because when I played Doom, Lawrence, because you were playing Doom so often, and I was like, there's got to be a reason why Lawrence loves this game. And when I played through, I was like, holy shit, this game is just practically perfect. The first Doom that came out back in, what was it, 2016?
Yeah,
2017. And it just felt so good. And again, it was a very curated way of playing a game, but it was just unbelievable the way the music syncs up with your combat, syncs up with the environment, it's beautiful. So I've been trying to get myself in that mindset a little more.
What I find crazy is when those two lock together, of like all the art assets that create a more spectator kind of experience. But then also the rule set that means you have to be there hitting buttons, and through your button hits, you create kind of a narrative that lives neatly alongside that. And that's where I think From Software is amazing, because it creates an almost dreamlike experience because they don't have cutscenes that they literally tell you what the plot is unless you really work for it, which is also fun. It makes you kind of own it in a certain way. But you have your experience where you're walking through this crazy cathedral, you walk into this room, the music hits, a giant gargoyle lands, you do some freaking awesome combat. You know that you came into that with, like, gameplay-wise, your build, your weapon, your spells. You use your tools that you picked to beat it in your way. And then you can go tell somebody else about that, about how you were on your last grass and you hit them, you countered the last hit and then killed them right at the last second. And it creates a nearly curated experience. But yeah, that's when, like, gameplay mechanics can create, like, combine with the artistic intent of a creator. And then also your inputs create this new thing that I don't know. It's not pure gameplay, and it's not pure storytelling. It's that neat little meat in the middle. It's weird because for a long time in big brain video game discussion circles, this was kind of viewed as some sort of gaming nirvana that we would arrive at some point. I don't know. I tend to think it already happened, but that's just me. So yeah, that's kind of the breakdown. That's how I personally think about those aspects and what I find so amazing about them. What's crazy about Doom Eternal is that I love games that the better you get at them, they change and improve. Like, they get more fun. And I saw some patch notes that made my mouth water about Doom Eternal. Apparently, they're finally adding some visual indicators about some of your cooldowns close to the center of the HUD, because looking down to the corner takes too long during some Doom fights. It will get you killed.
That makes sense.
But even before that, they had audio feedback for everything, and it was always really, you could actually learn it. Like, they had different audio cues for when your grenades were cooled down. They had different audio cues for your dashes cooling down. They had different audio cues for all of your guns and all the cooldowns on all of those. So you could basically play it with no UI once you learned how to do it, which is pretty astounding and kind of a neat note for accessibility. But just to, like, appreciate all the craft that goes into that is sort of where that's what tickles my booty hole. Thinking about people that are that good at it. Not even at playing it, but at making it.
At making it, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. This reminds me of, like, I think we talked about speedrunning before on the podcast, but this feels almost like an intersection of those two things, where speedrunning is like mastering a system to the point where you've, like, remade it into a completely different experience. So there's authorship there in that you've gotten so good at playing the way it was meant to be played that you end up inventing a new way to play it. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I think about that
it's like an
stuff
interesting
so much.
mixture.
It's so cool. Games that, like, started a certain way, and then even a year later, or even at different skill tiers, you just can't. They're not the same game.
Yeah.
That when skill becomes transformative. I think about that in terms of, like, Tetris a lot. I gravitate towards the simple games that also have an infinitely high skill ceiling, because I feel like they're just kind of easier to wrap your head around. But yeah, you start playing, it's like I clear one line, yay. And then you get really good and you start clearing 4 lines, great. But man, if you spend a couple rounds in Tetris 99, it's the same rule set and the same game, but the mentality is just somewhere else. It's in another galaxy, because they're playing like 8 moves ahead and thinking about all these other factors that if you're just trying to stay alive, you don't really have the headspace for. And a lot of pro shooters are like that too. I remember my mind just getting blown up. I kind of got reared on, like, GoldenEye and stuff like that, and I was like, I know how to shoot people. And then I got a PC and I started playing Quake 2. And so Quake 2 has power-ups, like pickups on the map, health and armor and stuff like that. Halo does too, but whatever. I was devastated when I saw somebody so good at Quake that they jumped directly towards a power-up that spawned right before they got there. They actually just memorized the timing of the spawn rate in the map. And I saw it happen, and zhoosh, he was gone. I was like, what the fuck? That person was not only shooting me, but in their head counting down for that power-up to spawn. And I was just like, it took my breath away that somebody had played it that much, that even incidentally, like without coaching, had just sort of picked up that sort of skill level. And seeing that stuff happen also is really, really exciting. But it can lead to other problems, and maybe I'm jumping tracks here too much, but you guys like there's a game you like, and then you watch like an esports or a speedrunner pro play it, and it's not even the same game anymore, and you even have trouble understanding what's going on. I've seen that a couple times too.
I played. I just recently played in an Apex tournament, an Apex Legends tournament, where like they invited a bunch of non-pros to draft pros, and they're like, here, you guys go and pick Apex Predators or people that are in TSM or whatever else, and so it was an interesting juxtaposition too, because I got to play in the tournament. I knew what it would be because I've done that before. I've played in an Apex tournament with pros before, and it's a whole other game. But this one was especially different because I got to play 2 hours of pubs with the pros that I played with, and we like just won, game after game after game. It was just like no problem. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe the tournament won't be so bad. And then as soon as we got dropped into the tournament, like they're playing a totally different video game. It's like playing chess against a grandmaster when you've only played chess, 20 times.
Yeah.
And I, after a while, because like you can't, it's funny too, because gamers also, I hate that word, gamers also immediately, you start complaining about the video game mechanics, or you start complaining about whatever else to excuse what happened to you, but there is no excuse when you're playing in a tournament against pros, because they all know the rules, and you should too. And when you lose over and over, there is no excuse other than I'm bad. That's just what it boils down to. They're better than me. So it's actually a really humbling experience. And I really enjoyed it because it felt that it's good to just let go of, oh, well, this one thing didn't work this one time or whatever, oh my gosh, fuck. Demon Souls is just smacking me. I'm dead. It's just, it was humbling. It felt good. It felt good to be like, well, I'm just not that good. And if I wanted to put the time in on the pro level, then I just have to spend, hundreds, thousands of hours, whatever.
That's I think that's the other thing that really drove me into the single player experience. And this is going to be more shocking emotional vulnerability out of nowhere on a podcast, but I think it was a place for me to sort of understand how I process loss and how that affects my ego and all that stuff. I was not a very good sportsman, I think. Didn't handle loss well, I guess, for a long time. So if you can lose over and over again in a vacuum and sort of get the rage out there, I think that was a place for me to feel a little more comfortable than online. Because what messes me up is, when you're playing online, people are going to win, and they're going to win as brutally efficient as they can. Yeah. And nowhere in that process is any consideration for helping you get better or learn the game. And I would get, like, the pros have to develop the ability to lose and learn from it. And like you said, Bruce, I think merely just accepting a loss at face value and maybe more holistically looking at what led to it is how you become a pro. It can't be an emotional experience.
Yeah. You're right.
So I think because I got so emotional when I lost, and still do to some degree, it's weird. That drove me to the single player experience. There's no shame if I'm freaking out and yelling at my TV in a vacuum. So
there isn't. By the way, in my opinion, Lawrence, that's a good way of channeling it, because you are yelling at nothing. And like when you're online playing against other players, and then you're screaming at other people on Xbox Live or whatever, that is not the right way to do it, it turns out. But if you can channel your anger against something that's an inanimate object, well, fuck it, right? Why not? Obviously to a point. But yeah, I think doing that against a single player experience is a great idea, Lawrence. I think that's a much healthier way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It also activates my stubbornness. This is kind of only in my head, but I like imagining, and this is to feed the gamer ego, that every game is I think I've talked about this before. My theory of the spiteful video game creator. Video game creators hate gamers. They do. Not for the reasons you'd think. It's because gamers, no matter what, can climb any mountain, provided that there, are stairs. But they can do it. They can hit the buttons. So game creators, they get together and they're like, how are we gonna humiliate these gamers? How are we gonna get out there and embarrass them? And then they make Demon Souls. Guess what? Gamers win again. And those game developers, ooh, they're mad. So anytime there's a game that's made that's hard, I like to imagine that it's almost a challenge from somebody, which is silly because, again, they make it to be beaten, and to sell. So I'm kind of buying into the money making mystery of it. But I do like imagining that From Software challenged me personally to not beat Demon Souls, and I'm going to show them, and boy, are they going to, they're going to be embarrassed when I get to those credits and respectfully look at everyone that made that video game. I just like imagining a stupid cat and mouse. It doesn't exist anywhere but my head.
I think that I think you're right, Lawrence. I don't necessarily think they hate gamers, but I do think I do think that they like they think to themselves, "Oh, this is going to be really difficult. Like it's going to be great to watch somebody struggle against this."
Yeah, and then we make them cry. Too bad.
And then we make them cry.
Try again, Hugo Martin. Make another ridiculously hard boss fight.
Something like, Ben Foddy's Getting Over It or Pogo Stuck, where those games are
oh my gosh,
unapologetically trying to ruin your day. Have you played those much, Lawrence?
No, because that lets the mask slip a little too much.
So you like the idea of this, but not the reality of it.
Yeah,
when they're actually doing that. Okay.
Well, because and again, this has to exist in the bubble of self delusion, because challenge is stupid. It's a dumb idea. You can make any game hard. It's really not that difficult. Like you just have to turn the knobs to make it hard. The damage, you just put enemies that like shoot lasers at you, like hit scan enemies, just sprinkle them everywhere. Boom, game's hard. Like Halo 2 kind of ran into that with like the one-shot snipes and stuff like that on Legendary. Mm-hmm. So merely dying is not evidence of good difficulty, and for a game to be designed explicitly around difficulty and have that be its like marketing feature, it's a turnoff. It's like, no, it's too easy. If you're making it to not be beaten, then it just won't be beaten. That's cheating. It has to be there has to be a coquettish sort of back and forth about it.
Well, that's what I think that's what From Software is the best at, right?
Mm-hmm. They're good at courting gamers with flawed egos.
Courting gamers with flawed egos. Wow, I mean, that is fighting words.
I don't necessarily think it's flawed. I think it's just like you said. It's like it's a delicate dance of being like, well, this is going to be hard, but it's not going to be hard to where you can't beat it. And then also if it is, if somebody's like, oh fuck it, I'll plug in my Guitar Hero controller and beat it with a Guitar Hero controller.
Yeah,
I'll beat this with potatoes.
There's always someone raising the ante.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think given the amount of pride that people have in completing From Souls or From Soft games, I think that speaks to a certain... I guess I like kind of living those aspects on my sleeve, because I suspect a lot of people who play games actually feel those aspects and maybe aren't, super explicitly aware of them. So the amount of pride that people have about beating hard video games, like it's good to have pride in things, but again, it was made to be beaten. They sold it to you to give you that exact emotion. So it's weird to me. It's like watching Avengers and then feeling proud of the fact that you thought it was really cool when Cap like beat Thanos with a hammer. That was made to make you feel cool. And the fact that you felt the way that you were intended to when you sat there and watched it doesn't necessarily mean that like your movie-going instincts are evolved. You had
Is that a thing people feel proud of feeling?
What, for beating FromSoft games?
Well, the movie experience. This was you're doing an example.
Yeah, I was
calling an example.
It's my flawed analogy. I hope that in somewhere that made sense.
At some point, I bought into it, and I was like, I was with you 100%. I'm like, yeah, that sounds believable. I could imagine that, because it probably does exist out there.
I mean, I can tack on with Lauren. I mean, people are proud of. They are proud of watching movies and deriving specific meaning from them. Mm-hmm. That absolutely. They like if
it's like I understand the plot of this movie better than anyone, because
like Mother,
X, Y, or Z. Yeah. I wonder if that also goes for like just experience, and enjoyment, right? It's like I am the biggest Marvel fan. I know everything about Marvel movies. Here's, a video of me crying when this scene happened in the latest Marvel movie, Like I'm wondering if that's if there's a way, like, is that a subsection of culture? Do you think people are like competing for being bigger and better fans of a given franchise?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 100%. That was people are doing that with Shakespeare. Like that was when I was fucking damn it. When I was these stupid fire lizards.
Oh, I love it. Sounds of gaming. It's so cozy.
When I was like, you know, a high schooler and you taking like an English lit class, I just remember how much my English teacher would just fucking jizz over Shakespeare and just talk about how much, like, all these meanings. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm sure they'd probably been analyzed over and over and over, and they've definitely found a bunch of different meanings in Shakespeare. But it's like, did Shakespeare really mean all of those different meanings? Is that really a thing? Or was that somebody just actually taking pride in the fact that they may have found a meaning where maybe there wasn't one? I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's a unique dynamic. I love it when somebody is so attached or involved into something that time and space start to dilate and twist in on itself. I think, Bruce, what you may be describing is, it's a trend that I think I've seen it happen enough that I can start to describe it a bit. And it's in a bit more academic fields, but when something's been analyzed and man, now on the internet there's just thoughts firing around all the time. Yeah. If you want to be like a thought person, you know, if you want to be a scholar or an analyst, a commentator or whatever, you got to come up with the big thought, the new big thought. And when there's no new material, then you got to dig in and find some new thought in Shakespeare. Then I feel like, yeah, you start to buy into your ideas and your take on it a little more, because that's the only currency you carry in the thought marketplace, I guess.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there is some aspect of that there. When you have enough brains in a room, the noise starts to get a little interesting.
Yeah, it's oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm gonna be that for video games. I've been doing that this whole podcast. In case you guys,
Lawrence, you already are.
Great.
Yeah,
now
I would
now I
agree
just got to
with that.
defend the crown. I just got to.
I think you are the jizzing English teacher.
You're the big thought. You're the big thought. Well, I mean, we all know. Actually, I think Lawrence knows the writers that are the jizzy English teachers of video games.
So it's weird. It's tough. When do you cross the line from trying to be a jizzy English teacher to actually becoming a jizzy English teacher? Because
it's a really dangerous line, by the way.
Ooh, it is. Never mind. Yeah, I see a lot of younger writers who are, like, weirdly, I think, either imitating the affectation of or pursuing the techniques of just being like hyperactive. I don't know. My brain's in a weird spot, but yeah, I want to be the video game professor, Dr. Video Games, if you will, but the cool one. So I come in with an acoustic
cool
guitar.
Dr. Video Games.
Yeah, I sit up on the desk and I'm like, hey, I'm Dr. Sontag, and then, you know, I play a little Zelda on my acoustic guitar, and I'm like,
that was Zelda's Lullaby. You might know it.
Lullaby of a generation. You may have read my paper 2 years back. Yeah, I'm pretty cool. And then, you know, maybe I have like a leather jacket or something. Oh yeah, I guess there's channels like Game Theory and stuff like that. Well, that's what I mean. So I'd have to get into a beef with Game Theory about something, and I don't know, humiliate them on the public stage. But for academics, so it's fine.
Well, yeah, but you also have to be invited to those conversations.
That's true. Well, and do academics invite other academics into their conversations? They invite to debates.
They invite to, and they only generally invite people that they know they can beat, right? So
yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that somebody's like, you know, going to take on somebody they think is their equal. So.
Somebody in chat says, Gabriel Da Vinci writes, what you're describing is known as Death of the Author, which is an essay by Roland Barthes, hope I'm saying that correctly, which posits that the author's intentions are actually irrelevant in critiquing an author's work. It means that the audience's interpretation will always be more relevant than the intention behind creating it. That is true.
We've talked a lot about that. Yeah. About how art is no longer yours once you put it out into the world. Which is not. That's it. It's long gone.
But I don't necessarily have much desire to understand or argue about or be right about intent. What I seek and what I've always sought is the human connection through those things. So whenever I play a game, what's fascinating to me, like I said before, is sort of analyzing, appreciating, and deconstructing all the craft that goes into it. And through that, it's really just, I think I've said this before, but to me it was like working on car engines. Each part was made by an engineer or a group of engineers to do a specific thing in coordination with a bunch of other parts that all play their role in this incredible creation that is, it represents some of the best of human ingenuity and invention. I think I just said the same thing twice. Whatever.
I know what you mean.
Every video game's like that. It's an astounding orchestra of all these component pieces that are working together to create this illusion of progress or of accomplishment or of stabbing a giant dragon in the ankle until it dies and gives you a ring or something. So that process is incredible, and through that, I love finding human connections to the people who made those things, because it's almost like messages in a bottle. And through that, it kind of feels like painting or poetry. You know, you see an amazing painting that just captures how you feel that day. And through that snapshot, you feel a human connection to somebody that was alive 500 years ago. And through that, you feel some grand connection to the cosmos. I think that experience, which there's probably an academic name for that I ought to learn if I'm going to be professor of video games. That's the closest I get to divinity. That didn't happen in a church.
What about this? You're never going to get to divinity. You ever think about that?
What if I beat the hardest video game?
It won't matter.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Like, it really won't matter. It's
all right, what if I get the best rank on the hardest video game?
Oh, I've been killed.
There's probably a secret ending, and God's there.
I mean, yeah, but I guess the worst part of this to me, when you think about those secret endings, or like you beat something on the hardest difficulty or whatever, is that somebody already thought about the fact that you're probably going to get there. There's going to be at least one person that gets there, and they planned for it. So it's not a surprise. They've already seen it. That's what I always thought was cool about the Donkey Kong kill screen, was that I don't know that developers knew that was going to happen, right? So if somebody sees the kill screen, that's a first, which is pretty cool.
Donkey Kong kill screen.
Yeah, it runs out of memory and then just fucks up and locks up.
Yeah.
I think the engineers knew that those limits were there. It just didn't matter at the time, because it was coin op. So it's like, it was just there to eat money and be fun enough to make you put in more quarters. So I think like things like getting to the kill screen is almost what Criken's talking about, where it becomes a different kind of game. And now people who are really good at Donkey Kong, it's more about how many points can you cram in before you hit the kill screen, not just how long and well can you play.
Yeah.
So I think, I guess you're right. It's interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me is why, like From Software games or whatever, people are like, oh, I beat it on the hardest difficulty with, no armor and no hits or whatever, is cool. But developers, I think, probably knew that you were going to get there, and maybe even like put out some achievements for you. So they already knew you were going to get there.
So Bruce, what happens if you get through life? You fly through a long tunnel. There's light at the end of it. And there's a 80-foot tall man with a long flowing white beard and golden yellow skin sitting at a giant table. He says, Bruce, welcome to Christian heaven.
Christian heaven.
Would you in that moment feel like the entire experience of life was cheapened because there was clearly architecture behind it?
I mean, no, because I haven't seen it, and nobody else could tell me. So there's no other experience that I haven't, like, no one else could say, oh, this is going to happen. You're going to see a god that, with a...
I'm just saying that if it does, let's say that you're in that exact moment.
What do you mean? Yeah, so I wouldn't bother me. It'd be a brand new experience.
Okay.
That no one would ever have seen or told me about. And so I think, and maybe that's the problem with our oversaturated video game life, is that if we want to see somebody beat Dark Souls with a Guitar Hero controller with their feet, we can. It's on the internet. And then there are like very few accomplishments left to do. That's just for me, though. That's just my opinion.
So like, because no one gave you clear path or goals to get to the God ending of life,
the God ending,
it's like more satisfying to you, like it because you came about it organically and from your own merits. Is that?
Yeah. Well, and also, again, there is no YouTube video that is posted that says, here's what happens when you get to the God ending of life.
How to unlock the God ending. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are videos of that is a whole subsection.
I mean, you're
YouTube,
probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. But there's just no way to see or know. And so, what is it? Death is the only mystery. Like at this point, pretty much like all of life has been documented. There aren't many experiences left that you can experience that somebody else hasn't.
Sex with two chicks.
Lawrence, I got bad news for you. There are about 1 million videos on the internet of that.
Two? Bruce, no, maybe you didn't hear. I didn't say two people. Two chicks at the same time.
Yeah, no, there's a lot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's the kind of I don't, for some reason I think in that way. I don't know why when I think of that way of video games, because I guess video games are meant to be an interactive experience. Whereas with movies, it's like, well, I know everybody's going to see the same movie. I just don't, like, everybody has a different interpretation. Maybe I should start thinking of video games that way. That everybody has a.
That sounds pretty healthy. I should get there.
I just don't think of video games that way. And again, we probably talked about this at some point on the podcast, but like the storytelling in video games just doesn't feel as good as in movies or even television nowadays. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's just my opinion, totally my opinion, but it just doesn't feel as good.
No, you're right. There's that hits certain, but I would say structural problems with how games work. If there's a narrative in a video game, what you're essentially doing is telling a story, in a game of basketball, or maybe pro wrestling is a better example. Video games are rule sets. At their most core, it's rules that operate on a loop and then have a victory condition and an end state, or they just go on forever. More likely these days, games are experiences that give the illusion of a rule set as opposed to actually being one. Which is another reason I think people really like From Software's games, is they're a little more honest about the video game experience. But
That's true.
I remember a lot of people being really upset at Roger Ebert back in the day for saying that games probably couldn't tell stories as well as movies could. Or wait, he said that because games are interactive by definition, that they cannot be art because the artist's intent cannot survive the translation of the input of the player. Essentially, the player's input transforms the experience in a way that makes it not art because it's different for everybody. And he got blown up about that, but I think he was right, maybe just using the wrong terms, especially the wrong verbiage for how defensive gamers were then. It's not as bad now, luckily. But I do think that telling a narrative in a game is tough, because if you want to tell someone a story, there either has to be a human there reacting to what people are doing, or you have to plan in advance. And yeah, I guess we brought this up on the very first episode, but yeah, there are kind of structural problems that a game, I think, can be a better narrative than a film, but it has to be the Playbox kind of game. It has to be Minecraft. It has to be Crusaders.
Right. A survival, basically survival story where it's not as curated, then that's just a totally random experience. It could be anything.
Could be good, could be bad. But that's, I think, the intoxicating part about tabletop RPGs, is that it is the freedom and the stats. It is the game part of a video game, because there's turns and stats and probability and die rolls and character builds. But then also there's a human being there who is usually a pretty good storyteller that can react to the players on the fly and create a customized narrative that then results in buy-in from everybody. Games are gotten pretty good about almost imitating that experience, but it's still not the same if there's not a human there making it up as you go, because eventually you'll hit the boundaries of what you're allowed to do.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know.
I'd agree with that too. I think we're not at the point where any AI or system can match the storytelling creativity of a human, and I don't know when or if we could ever get there. I've done a bit of playing of this game called AI Dungeon.
You
guys
me
have
too.
ever tried it? It's ridiculous, but sometimes it is impressive. It's usually, though, the way it works is like you give it a sequence of strings or just general kind of prompts, and then it will yes and whatever you're saying based on its massive database of narrative structure and other people's requests and prompts, and it will try to tell a cohesive narrative with whatever you're giving it.
It's so bad.
Try is the key word.
It's so bad.
It's often bad, but I also found that if you get really deep into it and you start to understand how it interprets these things, you can help it along the right way. And then once you've done that, it'll actually start working much better. Which isn't really fair because then you're basically helping the AI do its job. But like
at the suspension of disbelief, right?
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, like that's what AI learning is, right? Like you're helping an AI become more self-sufficient. Yeah. But yeah, no, there's been some genuinely good story beats that has come from this thing, but I think it's mainly that we interpret it and are able to like, play with the source material it gives us in a way that makes it entertaining, unless that the material itself is actually really brilliant. Like there's no actual story arc that's gonna, compare to like Tolkien or anything that's gonna come from an AI anytime soon.
Just wait until Dr. Video Games gets in there and starts analyzing it.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, we're gonna have our Lord of the Video Games.
Are you our Lord of the Video Games, Lawrence? Is that your new title now?
No, it'll be an AI work that I like enough to stake my entire reputation on calling it the Lord of the Games of our time.
Got it. Okay.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of an AI that will control all of our lives, well, I guess a VPN's not really an AI.
It might be driven by big data. It's probably.
You think it's driven by AI? Anyways, this podcast is brought to you by NordVPN. It's one of the main reasons we are doing this podcast is because NordVPN is sponsoring it. Go to nordvpn.com/talk2internet to, I believe it's 2 years at $3.56 a month. It's 70% off with nordvpn.com/talk2internet code talk2internet. Now, if you don't have a VPN, what a VPN does is it protects your internet connection across wherever you are. So if you're at a coffee shop or if you're at home or whatever, it proxies your internet connection through a bunch of other servers around the world if you wanted to, and hides the things you're doing on the internet and gives you a lot more privacy than if you were just doing it through your ISP. They have NordVPN has 5,500 servers in about 60 countries. You can unlock Netflix and lots of other region-locked things, entertainment websites if you want to watch different regions of Netflix or Hulu or whatever else. You can do that using NordVPN. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee with NordVPN. Like I just said, it protects your data while traveling. Obviously, you can turn on your VPN on your laptop wherever you are. It doesn't have to be also from home. There's no data logging. There's 24/7 customer support. Works even in China. So ideally, when we can travel again and you go to China, you can use it there. And up to 6 simultaneous connections with NordVPN. It's super easy to install and use. You just install and then you literally just press one button. And if you want to mess with different servers and have your internet connection go through different servers, you can tell it to go through specific servers, or you just hit the one button and you're done. So go to nordvpn.com/talk2internet. They are sponsoring the podcast. Again, one of the major reasons we're doing the podcast is because they're sponsoring it. So please feel free to use that code, and they'll continue to sponsor podcasts, and we'll continue to do it.
Thank you, Nord.
Thank you
very much. Yeah, thank you, NordVPN, very much.
For protecting our internet.
Oh, wow. Gene Pool said, can confirm it works in China. Currently watching from China with NordVPN. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
Wow. All right. Cool.
Love it.
That is rad.
Tiny Viking in chat says, been playing D&D for the last 10 years, and I suppose I've carried that through my PC gaming, but I've found that it's better to slightly bend the dialogue options to suit your choices to the character you're playing.
Interesting.
Yeah, to hear Criken, to hear you talk about like the permissiveness you kind of have to afford an AI system, it reminds me of like a bit of Jackbox, where it's like everyone agrees that this is funny. It may just be random, but there's a butt on screen, so that's funny. So that makes sense to me. When everybody gets together and they want to have a good time, they're willing to kind of work with people.
Suspension of disbelief sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that happens already with video games. People, every time you sit down to a video game, you're hopefully mentally buying into an experience that's a bit more elevated than just like beep boop or just like pattern response. So when it comes to something like Mass Effect, which or like any of BioWare's RPGs, I think that are kind of like RPG light, they give you some decisions and give you some agency in conversation. But if you really drill down into the things that like matter or can vary or really acknowledge your input, list may be a little thin, but it has to be because people have to make all that content, so on and so forth. But it's the illusion that matters more than the reality to most people. You know, that's why magic works. Except there's always that one person, me, in the audience, screaming that I swear I saw this dude's pants move. Then again, that's the guy who ruins it for everybody. You know, the there's no sound in space guy. Actually.
Oh well, I was going to say that there really is some fun to suspending your disbelief. Like, just don't think about. I find myself sometimes caught up in thinking about how a television show is made, or thinking about how a production. I was watching a show on Netflix that didn't have a low production value, but there was something specifically. There was an electronic door that I saw them keep using, and I was like, I know there is a crew guy on the other end of that door every time. Yeah, somebody pretends to swipe a card, and like you can see the guy grab the door and move it, and I'm like, fuck it, and I just kind of move on. You know, like it doesn't matter. You can see it, but it doesn't matter. Like of course, this is a story. It's a fake story. It's a fictional story. Like you just gotta enjoy it for what it is.
That's why I think more than anything, being an actor would be awesome, because that guy got to have a sweet, super electric door open for him. I think it'd be really fun to be on set with everybody sort of creating this like papercraft theater for you to run around in and play a character.
Absolutely.
That would be so fun. Even if you can hear the dude like grunt and complain as he's moving the door, I think that would just make it even better. Like just because you get to be the 8-year-old in your head. He's cussing and moving a door, but you hear the zoom. Like, you're like, yeah, I am in space. I am a cool guy.
No, it's super rad. I mean, that's I mean, not everybody wants to be an actor, but of course that would be really fun to have everybody catering to what you want to do. But you also, the interesting thing about that, Lawrence, not to dive too deep into this, is then what happens is you become a tool for an actual creator who is creating something.
Yeah.
So, like everybody gets to have their own little creative vision for those things. But if there's some, auteur director like Christopher Nolan or whatever, you're not going to be like, no, Mr. Nolan, I think I should open the door this way. No, he's going to be like, no, you're going to do it this one way and it's going to be like this. And then you're going to be like, okay, so you become the tool. So maybe what you're looking for is to become the auteur director.
The actor director, though. I think he wants to be,
the Mel Gibson.
Maybe. I want somebody to go through a lot of effort for only me to have fun.
Right. Okay.
That's what I want.
Huh.
Maybe being an actor, I mean, I guess being an actor, you still have to put out effort. You got to audition.
Of course you do.
You got to be good at performing or whatever. It's not about that. No, I want to be in the scene when I get to like fall through a pane of glass. That's what I'm all about. So any amount of work to lead to that one moment where an entire crew is there just so I can fall through some glass. That's what it's for. That's what life's all about.
You want to be Tom Cruise.
But he does a lot of work, man. I wonder, that guy's got to work like at least, he's got to work all day, right? What does he do for fun?
All day?
He's he's a producer. I don't know. Maybe I was reading too much into his on-set blow up, but to me that sounds like a guy who's working 18 hours a day and has been for the last 2 years to keep making films.
Yeah, no, yes. Tom Cruise is probably one of the hardest worker. Like, I'm not going to say he's a great dude or whatever, but he's probably an incredibly hard worker. Like, I can't imagine this guy works 6 hours a day. It's like, whatever, I'm going to go. Like, no, dude, he's a fucking producer, director, actor, and has been doing it for 30 years. I'm sure he works incredibly hard.
Longer than that. So I don't want to do that, though. I want to be Tom Cruise, but I want Tom Cruise to do all the work, and then I get to walk on set wearing his jacket. He gives me a thumbs up. I give him a thumbs up. And then I do that windmill jump that he likes to do so much.
Criken, what do you want to do?
Oh, man.
We've asked you this before on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I always want to know what Criken wants to do.
That's a good... I wonder that myself sometimes. It's the sort of thing where, like, I've always kind of had, I think, this drive since I was a kid to make experiences like video games that people can make their own stories out of, like to be the author of the worlds that people can then run with their own creativity, I think that was like always my inciting inspiration. So that originally started with, I'm just gonna make video games. And then video games, of course, have a lot more going with it. And now it's kind of turned into, well, look to the internet. We've got Twitch streams, we've got mods, we've got there's so many different ways you can try to realize some level of, I don't know, world building and shaping a narrative that involves more people. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of how I've pivoted my life focus, has been how can I invite more people to the creative conversation? And I just wanted, I'm very motivated by anyone that's doing something that's really either taking a risk or is has a very clear personal inspiration behind it, and a lot of authorship, I guess. The whole VTubing, I guess new age, I think is really fascinating to me. We know we've talked about this on the stream before, but the idea behind, I can customize how I want to come across online that is completely original to anything else out there. Of course, they're mostly anime girls right now, but either way, you're still creating your own original character and then playing it a certain way, you're piloting a mech, but it's a character mech. That sort of stuff I think is really fascinating. So I've been trying to learn a lot about it. It's my most recent, I guess, kick of creativity, I guess.
Yeah, Criken, you're definitely. I think of you generally when I think of an auteur internet creator. That's what I think of you as. I think of you as the actor director of that sort of content. And by the way, that doesn't mean it's only internet. That's just what I think of right now. I mean, you could go into anything. And
thanks, man.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it's because I know those are things we all kind of aspire to be, but I know Criken's been doing it for a really long time. So
yeah,
Criken is the Chris Nolan of the internet. Exactly, Austin.
I wouldn't go that far. Chris Nolan's much more successful than I am, or will ever be. But
success is relative.
Yeah,
that's true.
I guess the idea of it though is try to find the a way to express yourself in whatever medium you so pick. And so I've drifted between different mediums now, between YouTube and Twitch, and now being more of a developer of making applications that people can then take their own way. I don't know. There's merit to all of it. It's just, I guess you can. I guess I don't see it quite as much as one or the other. You can kind of flex between them all. And I'm sure if I had picked just YouTube and I'm not going to go to college, I'm just going to make YouTube videos back when YouTube was first kicking off, I'd probably honestly be much more quote unquote successful by most standards. But at the end of the day, I think it's more personal satisfaction. How do you feel fulfilled? At least that's what I tell myself. So
no, I mean, I think you're right. I think like Lawrence just said, success is relative. It really is. It's not, if you think success is, to you is starting a Twitch stream and getting 10 people watching, then that's success, man. That's not, I'm never going to take that away from you. No way. That's awesome. If you're I want to start my Twitch stream and get to 10 concurrent viewers, fucking great, dude. Go do it.
Yeah. It's a room full of people that you're just chilling and hanging out with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious, Criken, what aspect of that is rewarding for you? And I guess I phrased that as though you have to justify any part of it being rewarding. I didn't mean it that way, but I can see a lot of power in creating the tool set or being the spark that leads to a lot of other creative fires. Do you just enjoy knowing that happened? Do you like seeing the downstream creativity of the things that you put into the world? Well, what part in there makes it really make your soul light up?
It's a great question. I wonder that too. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint any one person's motivations, right? I feel like we can't necessarily everyone.
There's not one specific reason.
Yeah, or I guess you can't really explain where motivations come from most of the time. But I would say if I had to pick something, it would probably be seeing the creative works other people come up with that I know I had some way of enabling or making happen, even if it was indirect, and feeling other people's lives were enriched in some way by that association. So, I've always once I became aware of D&D, for example, I didn't know when I was a kid that tabletop role playing was a thing. I would LARP on the recess field with my fellow children without realizing that there was a whole like industry built around this stuff. And then after realizing that, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, being able to build a rule set or just kind of enough creative world building that it inspires someone to go and make an original character that then becomes, you know, a facet of their persona, and then they like get a tattoo of it, and it's like, you know, they now think of themselves in this character's terms. Like, I think that's badass. No, I mean that I'm sure a lot of D&D players and folks that do tabletop RPGs like have tattoos of their characters because they're like, this is part of me. I want this on me at all times. I want like to remember this experience. I guess what I want people to make tattoos of things that I do. I want to cause a tattoo. I want to ink up the world in some way, even if it's not literal, and a mental tattoo, you know, at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lawrence and I remember people would tweet us with like tattoos of Funhouse stuff or Inside Gaming. And I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
no, don't do that, no. And the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, oh no, it actually matters this much to them. Like, I'm not going to take that away from them. I will never encourage you to do that, to get a tattoo of something like that. But if it gives you, you know, if it makes you think good thoughts and encourage you through your life, then why not?
Well, that creates Bruce. That's a sensation that I imagine is difficult to describe and difficult to empathize with. When someone says to you that something you did meant so much to them, and for you, maybe you didn't create it or put it into the world with that intention.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, it create like you can't tell someone not to feel that way. I guess it's that's an emotion I never expected to need to know how to process in my adult life, and to some degree, I still have no idea how to. Not that I have to process it anyway, really. It's and not to make it sound like that the feedback is unwelcome either. It's more I guess it's hard for me as a living human to wrap my brain around that the same things that had an impact on me or shaped who I was, or the ways that I found crumbs of humanity in my life are the same ways that other people do it, just about different things. So maybe I should think about it that way. Like, the video games that meant a lot to me or made me feel alive and could connect to somebody. The person who made them probably didn't intend for that. They were doing their job.
Yeah. No, they were. I mean, like, obviously they cared about what they were doing, probably, but yeah, I'm sure to them it was just another day, right? And I admire that so much in other creators, where like they're putting out stuff where they clearly put a lot of work into it and they care about it, but also they're doing it all the time. Fuck me, that's crazy. That shit blows my mind. That like, there are a few creators that I will watch. Wubby's one of them, where the stuff that he does is great, but also he's doing it consistently. And watching a television show where 5 seasons of it is good television is, holy balls, is that amazing. And it so rarely occurs. And that's one of the things that I've always aspired to do, is to be able to make content on the regular that is up to a certain specific quality, whether or not it's Twitch or YouTube or whatever else.
Man, yeah, those are humbling goals. I guess then it kind of gets down to what you aspire to do with your creation. I think you could drive yourself crazy because there's no upper bound there. You know, when it comes to trying to make something of merit, trying to make something consistent, or even like Criken said, trying to make something that like leaves a creative mark on the world, or I guess plays a part in a greater human explosion of creativity and communication. Mm-hmm. Oh, that stuff will eat your brain alive. I've had to. I don't know. I've been spending a lot of time this like last 6 months trying to teach myself to be more mentally in the moment, and I know that that's a little bizarre right now, considering that I feel like I'm slipping into a liminal space where I can see color. But it's something that was so easy when I was young, because there just wasn't that much complication in my brain. But the older I get, it is shockingly hard. I remember the other day, I was like carrying the trash bins out to the curb, and the weather was beautiful, like, you know, it's LA. But I actually have recently gained the tools to try to attempt to live in the moment a little bit more. So I just stopped for a second, took in a couple of breaths, was able to empty my mind, sort of let the sun radiate into my skin. And I even imagined like little tendrils of energy
Thanks,
kind of
voice box.
sucking into my heart, and my heart getting bigger, and it felt great. And it was weird to have to reteach myself how to do that, to absorb the positive vibes off the current moment. So it's difficult for me to try and reconcile those two thoughts at the same time, to live in the moment, but also try and wrap your head around the multi-threaded human experience about creativity and expression and communication.
Lawrence, you know what you did?
What did I do?
You stopped and smelled the roses.
Yeah.
That's what that phrase means.
That's the other thing that pisses me off. How like profound all those stupid little phrases you hear a million times actually are.
Oh yeah. There's a reason. There's a reason that those exist.
Well, and to some degree, man, to link it back, this is almost like in the game of life, you play it long enough and suddenly it becomes different. So sure, when you're like 20, you're like, stop and smell the roses. Okay, I'll smell a flower. I actually remember literally doing that. I walked past a flower bush and there were some flowers and I was like, those smell good. I'm going to do what the saying said. And I smelled the flower and I was like, there, I did it. And what's funny is,
I'm creatively in tune.
Exactly. In that moment, I thought I understood the breadth of that. I was like, I stopped and smelled the roses. But no, it's far different and far more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's something that I have just not been able to do the last few months. And in truth, like every time I did it, the pandemic would invade my thoughts. And so then I would go the opposite, Lawrence. I would go like, all right, never mind. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. And
yeah,
it also, I think part of what I described is kind of this like driver philosophy that, is my burden. It feels like that sometimes, where it's like, when I feel like I have these, grand drives or motivations to like, oh, I got to make a creative thing that will inspire other people, or I've got to do this or this or this, like that all detracts from your ability to do just that, of live in the moment and feel satisfied with like the little things. And it's like, that's the downside, and it's not an easy solution. I don't really know the answer still of like how you can balance both, of be like very present and, smell as many roses as you can, but also be as like motivated and driven for the next big thing, whatever it might be. So I think it's a thing that humans struggle with a lot, or at least I know, from my perspective, I do. But I assume other people do too. So
absolutely. No, I don't know if there's an answer. I think that that's the whole point of life, is that you're figuring out when to do those things, because sometimes you got to have a long view, and other times you got to live in the moment. So
I guess that's what kills me about that, Bruce, what you were saying, is because I feel like you have to be in the moment to perform well, but you also need a long view if you want to build something with a legacy, I feel like. And there are some humans who can do both. They can find the power to be in the moment and create something great, but then also plan and move around things in the world and all that stuff. So I have all the respect in the world for people. I struggle with even one of those things, and some people are good at both.
Yeah, it's hard. Lizard. It's just really not easy to do. Like, it's like one of those things where you don't know how to do it sometimes. And there have been times in my life I can look back on and be like, oh yeah, I was good at it then. But ironically, when you're living in the moment, it's really hard to tell if you're doing the right thing. Obviously, it's pretty obvious.
That's why you also have to live without judgment. What does it matter if you're doing the right? What is even the right thing? Who's to say what's right or wrong? Only the gold man sitting behind the giant desk in the sky. Who, when you die, will reveal to you that all of life was architected by some uncaring deity. You'll have a chance to spit in his face, Bruce.
Or ask him, hey, why did I do all those things? And then hopefully he or she,
because I thought it would be funny, Bruce.
No, oh man, that real bum me out. Hopefully he'll say like, oh, well, it caused this and this and this and this. And by the way, it could be really bad too. It could be like, cause these other bad events that happen, and I'd be like, oh shit.
Because of terrorism.
No, geez, I hope not. Fuck.
That's it though. He doesn't explain any more than that. Oh, sorry. It's 2021.
They just disappear again, and you're like, well, all right, that was my big reveal.
Here's a Black Mirror episode for you. All right, this is a bit of a swerve, but
Okay.
to get us off the existential dread.
Atomize,
maybe
I'm
the
looking
same.
for the lever.
Let's
Where is
say you could trade the rest of your natural life for this arrangement. You are in a room, and you cannot communicate with anyone. You're basically the universe, just you, and a pretty sweet gaming PC. And you will stay alive as long as you are playing through your Steam catalog. And as soon as you finish your last game, you will wink out of existence.
Oh my gosh.
Can you buy more games?
No, it's what's in there right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
Can I download more games?
As long as you own them already, or you own the rights to them.
This is just like a dystopian future painted by Steam. Like this is just a company sponsorship.
You're not going to have time to buy
more
more
games just in case that the world ends and you can only use Steam.
I mean, you're not going to get a heads up, but preppers have bought stupider things thinking that the world was going to end.
It's true.
Maybe at some point near the end of the life, when your site starts going, you're like, all right, let's kick that in. Because I feel like what I've got in there, that's a good 300 years maybe. I could get a lot of thinking done, but I don't know if that'd be real quality time.
300 years.
Or maybe long. How long would it take to beat all those effing games?
I wonder. Well, you're saying beat, but
I guess some games can never be beaten.
I think it's more of a satisfaction thing. It's like I have gotten all the enjoyment I can out of this game. On to the next one. Once you've stopped playing a game, can you not go back to it?
No, and it has to be alphabetical.
Oh my god, what are all these rules? All right. Okay. Let me see. Alphabetical. I want to sort that real quick.
I guess 7 Days to Die is probably at the top.
Yeah, Nash Meany was saying Sark's been doing this because I've been watching Sark play his stream library A to Z, and he's like only on A, I think, right now.
Yeah, I got 4S. I don't know what that is, but apparently I have it. And then there's 7 Days to Die. Oh man, I got 934.
That's a lot. That's a lot of time in some weird gaming purgatory.
The last one is Suicide, which is fucked up. That's the final game. That game was like an indie game where you play as a fucking giraffe and you
we played it.
Beat up.
I think we played it at Funhouse.
We played it together. Oh, you played at Funhouse. Yeah. I played it like when it came out. It's not a good game, but I guess it's a fitting one to end on. After all that, go out with a giraffe.
And I don't know that isn't it a multiplayer game? I don't think you can beat it.
Yeah, it's multiplayer and just play it forever. Just be locked in that lobby and be like, well, this is the rest of my existence.
This is it. Well, at some point, do you think that you would be okay playing lobbies of Suicide for eternity? Or like, okay, so you would rather that than opt into the mystery of the void?
No,
that's
I would
my
definitely
choice?
take Void. I would take Void.
Yeah, I would take the Void. Take the Void.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time you got to Suicide, you'd probably be ready to move on no matter what that looked like.
Yeah. Although I think the interesting thought experiment is if you look at the list, is there a game before the end of your list that you think you would be like, I'm going to stay here forever. I'm not going to continue. I don't believe what comes next after this list of games. Like, the games later on this list.
Never be better than Bad Rats.
Well, it's like you get to like XCOM, for example, and you're like, XCOM might be the most fun I'll have. The next ones, I'm not particularly big fans of. I don't like Suicide. I'm going to stay on XCOM. But then there's always that thought of like, I'm so tired of XCOM. I've been playing it for 7 years and it keeps fucking me over and I feel so upset. Maybe I should just play Suicide just this once. I should play it. That's it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I feel
great
like
episode.
Even at that time, you'd have a mental breakdown and impulsively decide to go to the next game.
Yeah,
and then the next day when you wake up, you would have like a series of escalating existential breakdowns.
Wait, you're waking up? I thought you were 24 hours.
Maybe you don't need to sleep. Yeah, I guess we're removing. Yeah, because you shouldn't have any physical delights like eating.
Yeah, I would happily play a little bit of Suicide and then sleep, like a baby. That sounds like a good life. But if there's no sleeping and it's only suicide, then that's when it gets bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So at some point you definitely would go insane, and then just in the racket and chaos of your insane proclamation, somewhere in there you would accidentally move on. You'd hit the big button on the wall. That means you're clicking up a game. I guess it's just the idea of having like a very definite amount of time left, but its quality is not great.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just thinking about age.
Oh no.
Yeah, that wasn't a good job of getting us away from existential dread, was it?
It really wasn't. It was almost worse.
Yeah, it was actually quite a bit worse. Well, whatever. I'm alive right now. I'm in the moment.
I mean, you are. That's true.
Can't take that away from me. It's the only thing I got.
Anyone down for some suicide after this?
No. Let me ask you this.
No.
Let me ask you this, and I'll ask chat this too. What methods do you have of keeping yourself in the moment? Other than like, don't say, oh, I just think about it. Like, no, yes, of course. But I mean, like, are there other things that sort of remind you to go like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I should slow down for a second. And then, like, what do you do? What do you do that causes you to do that? I'm just curious. Somebody in chat said music helps. Meditation.
I see a lot of people talking about focusing on breathing. That's something I've been working a lot on. Yeah, drugs, very good, very good.
Drugs, of course.
Drugs take me as far out of the moment as I could possibly get. I guess it depends.
They do for me. I definitely do not. Those don't help me focus on anything. So,
baking, adrenaline-based activities.
Okay. All right.
So when I get adrenaline, I guess that to me that's different, because that's a kind of an unconscious being in the moment. Because that does sort of silence the chattering in your brain and makes you more present. But I feel like it's kind of different. It's more like parts of the brain turn off rather than sync up and kind of try to be here. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. At least I think I do.
Make lists. That's an interesting one. I like that. I like the thought of that.
I've been trying to make more lists. I hate it. I don't know what it is, man. My brain just doesn't want to do it. I guess I hate admitting to myself that I can't mentally track all these things, so I just have this innate negative hit whenever I need to update or use a list. Also, I finally found an app that doesn't take like 15 seconds to load. Why would a list take that long to load? It's supposed to be simple.
It's supposed to be just text.
Anyway, that's my set.
Giving myself small goals. That's what I do, Austin. I do that pretty consistently. Where, like, I know what the big goal is, but I usually try and just set a bunch of little small goals to get there. And that seems to help me feel like I'm making progress versus being like, I want to be a famous actor like Tom Cruise. And then that's my only goal. Then it's like, well, no, like, my first goal is to, get a part on set or like be an extra or whatever. And then you sort of take baby steps to get there.
Ooh, LSD can make you feel incredibly present, and the increased significance of the small things sticks with me for months after.
I've heard that too. I have some friends that did LSD, and they've been like, for like about a month after, they just had a totally different outlook and were very much more in the present and like positive.
I've heard the same thing. I mean, there are medical studies happening about that right now.
But I've also heard of other bad effects. So,
well, yeah, of course.
Probably not the same for everyone, which is unfair, I guess. It's kind of tough.
No, yeah. But, I mean, I've been reading that a lot where, like, micro doses of psilocybin or mushrooms will help people that are depressed or things like that. And absolutely, it seems to be a valid treatment. I don't know that it would be for me, but it seems to be valid treatment for other people.
We're not doctors, by the way. Chat, don't
what?
Don't take our medical advice for
no.
I
absolutely no. I'm not condoning doing mushrooms.
It's not
if
medical
you're depressed.
advice. We're just
I'm saying you should go to a doctor.
Oh yeah. I mean, those guys may not be doctors. I am a doctor. Not
Doctor video games.
Yeah, I'm not Dr. Philosophy though. If you want your head fixed, go somewhere else. I'll tell you about FromSoft though. Somebody was asking what we were talking about. Just ways to be present. What Ways to be in the moment. Yeah, for me, it's just been breathing, and then there's a few thought techniques and a few like emotional management. I hate to call it management. You know what's weird? What I'm finding a lot of success in is instead of managing myself, like listening and talking to myself, I never thought that I could have a communication with my own body, my heart, and my mind, because I thought those were me. Like, why would any thought come from that that's not fueled from those things? So a conversation there is irrelevant. I'm talking into a mirror.
I see what you're saying.
But it turns out that's not the case. I've actually started, I guess, being more open to things, more observant about things. And you know what? This actually links back to something we were talking about before. How, if you're playing a multiplayer game and you get feedback you don't like or feedback that doesn't make sense, you just want to get upset. And to some degree, I think that helps you ignore the feedback. If you, like say in Demon Souls or whatever, you suffer a bullshit death. It was bullshit because it wasn't adequately telegraphed to you, but that's what the rule set still did. So it's still beholden on you to understand it. And blaming it on somebody else or excusing it to something else doesn't really help you get to your goal, which is beating that boss or whatever. So for me, I don't know. I guess being more open and observant of myself. I feel like maybe I didn't actually quite understand the rule set of my own body, which is a very engineering way to think about it. But maybe instead of being upset at the things that seem to happen outside of my understanding, accepting them without judgment is, I guess, what I'm trying to do now.
Well, you're also describing being in touch with your feelings and with your body and with your mind a lot more. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. God. It frustrates me that, like, I don't know, I guess everyone gets there at some point. I was always told to never be wrong, so I never was. But who decides what's wrong? Wrong can change. But yeah, no, people we're all just piles of stuff, huh? It's frustrating because there's beauty in everyone, and there's just so much stuff in the way. It's frustrating sometimes. Verbalizing what's on your mind. Yeah, I never really verbalized either. Should do that more often.
If you're in a safe space, it's great. It's great to be able to communicate the way you're feeling and thinking. Because if you're not in a safe space, then you know, who knows? You might get judged, and that might cause you to retreat further inward. But if you got the right friends or loved ones or whatever, and you could absolutely feel like you can say whatever you want, and then they'll talk you through those feelings.
It's like a good game of Demon Souls.
Oh my gosh, guys, I don't know where I am right now.
Yeah, I didn't throw it all the way back. I think, Bruce, the way you're doing it is ideal because you have a whole grip of very helpful and energetic enthusiasts to help you through your experience.
For the most part, absolutely. There are a few people in there that are like, you didn't do it the right way, but most people are very encouraging, which has been really, really super nice. And actually, that's surprising. Most of the time when I get on these games, people are always like, you didn't hit the thing right or whatever. And I'm always like, oh, boy, that makes me feel even worse. I wish I could do it the right way, but I don't know the right way because I'm just playing it for the first time.
Yeah, that's a really a flawed but understandable dynamic, I think. But I honestly think people have gotten a lot better about that. I don't know what it is. But yeah, people used to be pretty vicious. Maybe it's just like, you curate a community well enough. Bruce died 12 times? You've only died 12 times.
I actually got through the entire first area, including the first boss, without dying.
What? Oh, wait,
yeah,
the
scripted death I died. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, there's the scripted death at the very, very beginning. But
wait,
that's like
which Souls has the gargoyle man with the little butt and the club that's supposed to kill you at the beginning? Is that Souls or Dark? Is that Demons or Dark Souls? It doesn't matter.
I have no idea.
Well, that's Dark Souls or DS1. Okay.
I have no clue.
Out of that whole sequence, all I remember is a little butt.
We made it. We made it to the end
actually.
What'd you say?
I just wanted to remark it was a pretty big butt. I don't think it's quite little.
No, it's tiny.
Thanks,
I think
Criken.
it's just like a little demon butt back there. I'm gonna find it.
Also, we never introduced the podcast. Hi, welcome to Talk to the Internet. This is a podcast called
Talk to the Internet.
Talk to the Internet.
Look at that ass, man.
It is on every podcast service if you ever want to listen to it. It's there.
Every single one.
Yeah.
I mean, if they hear that, they probably already figured. Nope, they might be on YouTube. I like how all I had to. Oh wait, no, I did put Bud in there. Oh, I can buy it. I'm getting really distracted. All right, well, thank you all for listening to the podcast. Bruce has got another 20 hours of Demon Souls.
Oh man, let's. How many hours have I done? 5? Yeah, 19.
Man,
wait, are you playing other things too?
No, I'm only playing Demon Souls.
No.
I mean, I don't expect to beat this game in 24 hours. Am I going to beat it?
I mean, maybe.
If you knew where to go and exactly how to beat every boss.
I don't.
Yeah, but probably not.
Yeah, no, I don't.
That is very bold. Good luck.
I mean, again, I felt like I had to force myself to play these games because I really want to respect them and be semi good at them. And it's like me watching all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where like I plowed through 150 episodes of JoJo and was like, nah, I don't like it.
Well, what are you gonna do when like the sleep exhaustion kicks in and you're at the end of the game and your reflexes need to be like, ship shape, and you just are gonna start.
I'm gonna power through like a true gamer.
Wow. Okay.
Right, Lawrence? Lawrence is nodding his head.
He's gonna do it. Bruce is gonna show everybody. Criken, you're gonna spend all this time making all these wonderful tools that people will tell each other amazing stories with, and they'll grow to understand themselves and the world around them. But Bruce, in one day, is going to become a shining gaming beacon for the world and show us all what can be done.
I'm gonna beat the shit out of Demon Souls, or end up screaming at the video game, not having slept. There are two outcomes here.
Okay, I know where my money's at, but I look forward to it.
Oh man, yeah. Tune in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. or whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what's happening.
All right. Thanks again for another wonderful conversation, gentlemen. And
thank you very much.
Whether you're watching or listening, thank you very much for spending time with us. Let us know how you center yourself this week. That's the Talk to the Internet challenge. Center yourself, and let us know how.
Lawrence, what are you doing after this?
That's a really good question. I might try to get some early scripting done on Inside Games.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or just get some research done, and then I got a nice little thing planned with Steph today.
Nice.
And then apart from that, yeah, it's just kind of making sure all my shit's in order. There's some interesting projects coming up next week that hopefully happen. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm in the place now where if I can get 30 minutes of downtime, I got to take it. So I'm gonna go do that.
Oh, good. Criken, what about you?
I'm going to similarly try to get 30 minutes downtime and then eat my breakfast because it is
It's 3 o'clock.
Yeah, well, you're playing 24 hours of Demon Souls. I don't think you can be coming at me for my habits.
No. I know. I'm just kidding around. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Doom DLC tomorrow. Yes, I think I will have time to stream it. Sorry, somebody just asked in chat real quick. So
No, it's not.
there's the laser hammer. The bad guy's in a mech now, and there is a dragon. So
Wow.
yeah,
There's a dragon in Doom now?
yeah, there's a Doom dragon. Everyone, so this is something I didn't even get into, but you know how there's like a time where everyone starts saying a thing and you can tell it's because they all think that they're clever for being the first one to say it. Everyone's linking this dragon in Doom Eternal DLC 2 to the last boss in Doom 3, and it's not the same. That's in a different canon. We knew that. Actually, they already linked some of the canons together, so it's possible. Anyway, it's ridiculous the amount of people who have been tweeting at me about this stupid Dr. Betruger dragon. Doesn't even look the same. Everybody thinks we're real smart for saying it. People found it YouTube comments are trying to sound smart on the internet.
Man, Lawrence is burning him up right now.
Lawrence knows a lot about Doom. That's the takeaway I got from that rant.
I presume too much. Too judgmental. So what if people sound smart? I should let them sound smart. Anyway, it's a different dragon, I think. His name is Flynn Taggart. Anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast this week, and we'll see you next week. No, we won't. Wait, when are we going to... Shouldn't have said that. Now I have no idea.
About next week.
Yeah, definitely not next week. Never mind.
But who knows?
Who knows?
At least a month from now. We're going to do one in a month from now. I know that.
We'll call you.
But
Love it.
All right, gentlemen.
Bye, everybody.